Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, and thank you for stopping by once again. You may have heard that we have got the basic outline of what's going to happen October 12th when we do open to the arrival of people from other nations that are not residents like you, like I am, for example, but are tourists or just visiting for the first time. It's very common in Panama, the way when we work through issues like this, if you live here long enough, you see it happen more than once, and that is when it's controversial, and there's 2 or 3 or 4 different viewpoints. Those viewpoints are usually pressed with great enthusiasm, vigor out there in the public domain. In this case, nurses, particularly very outspoken, very clearly determined to see to it they don't go through what they had to go through a few months ago. But they and the medical profession saying, we've got to be sure we've done so well. We've got numbers are way down. Things are going extremely well. We don't want to mess this up and have to go through this ever again. Meantime, of course, the business community is saying we've got to get things rolling again. We got to save our businesses. We've got to get people back in jobs and so forth. Everybody's got valid points to make. All those valid points were made. And if you're an outsider, you don't know. You think, oh, there's going to be these sharply worded conversations, and they'll probably be sort of fighting over it, so to speak. No. What they'll do is they'll sit down. Once it's clear, they've made their arguments clear and everybody's heard them, they will sit down and they'll work with the government people, and they'll come up with a policy that is, say, equally objectionable to all parties or equally acceptable, depending on how you want to look at it. In any event, that process will continue for some of the small details we'll mention along here, but the basic outline is done and has been announced. For those coming down from wherever you may be coming from, you have to, you have one of 2 different ways of dealing with this whole what to do about the COVID-19 business. That is, if you have a test, an antigen test, a PCR test, that is within 48 hours, then you can, and it shows that you're negative for COVID-19, you're fine. You hand that over and you can come into the country and go about your business. However, in some countries, the United States is one, but there are other areas too where it's very difficult in some areas to get those tests and to get them done quickly and get the results quickly. This is a real problem. So that they can't get here with a test that isn't more than 48 hours old. Now, I should say that's one of the things that's going to have to be clarified here. It's a small detail, but it will be dealt with, and that is just 48 hours prior to departure, or 48 from wherever you're coming from, or 48 hours prior to arrival here in Panama City. But traditionally, in the past, it's been prior to departure, so we'll assume that for this moment in time. But that can be very difficult to do. So if you arrive and you do not have those tests, or your test is too long ago, then you're tested right here and at the airport. And you will have to pay, they haven't given us the price yet, they will. They'll have to pay at cost the price of that particular test. If it comes out negative, you have no sign of having the virus, then you go on your way. But if it's positive, then you must go into a hotel. We call it a hotel hospital here, basically because the hospital, the medical folks run it, their rooms at local hotels. You're assigned to one of them, and you are in isolation, basically. You have to be there. Meals are brought to you and so forth for 7 days. And then at the end of that, you are tested. If you remain positive, then you have to stay until the completion of 14 days in isolation before you can go out and travel as you like. However, if it's negative at that stage, after 7 days, then you're free to go. Well, obviously nobody wants to get stuck in the hotel, and I assume that people will be charged. I don't think it would be in a horrible amount of money, but I mean, they'll be charged something for the meals and for the stay in the hotel. I mean, the attitude is that we have our hands full paying for everybody we've got to deal with here. In Costa Rica, they required that people have insurance specifically for COVID-19 that would guarantee up to $50,000 worth of expenses in health care, and I think it was $2,000 for a hotel room and everything else. And that got pretty complex, and it's an expense. So we're trying to say this, is that get the darn test if you possibly can, so you're clean, you come in, you don't have to worry about it. If you can't do that, come down, but this is what we will have to go through. Now, my added comment to this is that if you're not going to be able to get that thing and done and in 48-hour time frame or anything of that sort, and then I say if you can get it free or cheap, get it. Just see. Are you positive? If you haven't done that already, if you don't know, then find out. If you are, then you don't have to. Then you have to worry about that. And you shouldn't be coming down yet. Okay. If you're negative, at least it's a good sign, and as close as you can to your departure. It's not perfect, but the whole idea is just try to avoid that problem when you get here, if you possibly can. Hopefully, the situation wherever you are, whatever country you may be in, it's not just the U.S. In a number of countries, people living in, especially in rural areas and what have you, may have difficulty in fulfilling these time requirement. Well, that's the way it is. So dealing with it is going to be your responsibility, and we'll just hope for the best on that. But this is a lot better than it might have been. I mean, at least there's this. You have a choice. There are two different approaches to it, and neither one is 100% satisfactory to one group or another, but it means that most people will find the way that works best for them and come on down. And we will see how this unfolds. And this is very important that we do it, and we do it right here at the beginning. And the last thing we need to see is a major surge. And as you probably know, in some European nations, for example, some states in the U.S. and elsewhere, there have been surges. Oh, good Lord. So it's just the way it is. We're learning how to live with this thing. And the determination down here is to be ready for it and to deal with it effectively. We are opening up for sure. We now have some restaurants are opening up. Literally now, I saw my first restaurant saying, "We are open." Estamos abiertos, And I thought, oh, wow, okay. And there were people going in. They'll be under regulations. They've all had to pass certain tests and clear and meet the requirements of the new order, so to speak, until we figure out whether we're on top of this thing or not. It would probably be every other table or some such business, or 6 feet, or whatever it needs to be done. They have met those requirements, and they're open for business now. I got a $10. I paid $10 for a $20 coupon of food. You get $20 worth of food for $10, that sort of thing, as a support for a local restaurant that I happen to think highly of. We have, by the way, here in the city, we have a thing called Oferta Simple, which means simple sale or simple offer, and it comes up pretty much every day, and it has different, usually half-price things, all sorts of offers. It's very, very popular, and I've used it on several occasions. Pretty much everybody uses it one time or another, and restaurants have been doing delivery orders through that. Now we're finally getting back to actually being able to go over and sit. However, we are told, we're going to have to phone in advance instead of reservation, because reservations will now be required, which was not the case in the past. All right, fair enough. I mean, we know the rules. We'll follow the rules. And I've got my coupon. I'm looking forward to going over and letting them know that I'm glad that they're back and operating as a restaurant again. I'm going to break in here. I finished already, and then I listened to it. I realized I didn't add something I wanted to. Small detail. But I'm going to put the link to the Oferta Simple publication I mentioned in the video in the description below, and give you a chance to take a look at it. It's not because you're going to be astonished or thrilled or anything else. It's very ordinary, but it gives you an idea of what the sort of thing we look at when, pretty much every day, and the sort of things that are out there, what the prices are and so forth and what have you. It's a wild and wonderful variety of things people can come in with. Sometimes it's for kids and sometimes it's restaurants. There's lots of restaurants as a rule. It's just different things. So you can go ahead and take a look at it. If you end up in the Spanish version, then the American flag gives you the English version, and the same is in reverse. The Panama flag will give you the Spanish if you get the English and you don't want that one. They're identical. The offer you see at the home page could be anything under the sun. It is only one of several. It gets pride of place by, I don't know, throw of the dice or whatever. If you go over to the right-hand side and scroll up and down, you'll see there's a number of other offers there. Just click on any of them and they'll go in and you can read the description, you can see how it operates, how it works, and so forth. It's just a little extra something about, in this case, life here in Panama City, but I wanted to share that with you before I left. I look forward to talking to you again, and I will be back soon. We are opening up quickly here. I want to get beyond the opening up business and the COVID virus and all this and get into talking more about what will happen when you come down and what to look for when you get here. So that day is coming very soon. Thanks so much for your patience, and I look forward to seeing some of you not too distant future.